Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing, with your hosts Glenn Thayer and the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young.
Welcome back, folks, to another podcast. Tom and I were talking and asking each other, is email marketing dead? Well, Tom, is it?
Well, it needs to be resuscitated, maybe. But it's not quite dead yet. And it also needs to change. I mean, I think there's a lot of things happening with content on the web that is really pushed out the traditional email marketing newsletter. And so, the use of email within different segments of web users has changed dramatically. And a lot of this is demographic, and a lot of it is just overload with messages. And what I'm seeing is trends that is moving email more toward a text message. And even you're starting to see it, you probably see it now more in that some people don't even put content in their email. They just do a message header, and that's it. And they send you the message header. Well, that's using email like a text message. And the other thing that people do with text messages is they are scrolling through looking at the most recent text messages, and an older text message is lost or forgotten. And I think that's starting to happen now with email. So what it's pushing email toward is instead of it being a relevant piece of content that needs to be either archived or distributed or taken care of, whatever people are going to do with an email message, it's becoming more like one of 100 pieces of information that came in that day via technology, and it can easily get discarded. Not to mention the use of social media and how Pinterest now is pushing photography with captions and organize your life around photography, that sort of thing. So email's got tremendous pressures on it. It's very competitive, and I think content is kind of driving it to content on the web is driving email to evolve and change.
Well, what are some different types of emails that are out there? Because obviously you think about email marketing, and there's several different ways to get your content out there. Obviously, we're going to be talking about content marketing in a future podcast, but
right.
From an email standpoint, I mean, there's several different types of emails. Let's not discount that, because I know when I subscribe to email lists, I get them from the Business Marketing Association. And about every 3 days or so, I get a smart brief that comes in. And within it, it's almost like a link farm, where it comes in and has stories that are relevant to the marketing end of business. And it has links to them. And I can peruse those links. So what is the hot thing right now? What's going on with PepsiCo versus Coke? What's going on in the pharmaceutical industries in marketing? What's happening? I can look at those at a glance and find out what I want to see. Now, I can browse that email in, I would say, 30 seconds, and I typically click one or two links.
Right. And that email, that is what is a traditional email newsletter. That's what it's become now. I mean, it basically something like a shop.org, which is another example of that. And that they'll also show you what are the most popular links that have been clicked on in the newsletter over time. So you can start to see what people are voting on, with their clicks as being very important. But that doesn't necessarily translate into a revenue model for companies. No. That's where, for most of our clients, their email newsletters need to be much more targeted, and getting back to the fact that it's all about the subscriber. It's all about the person that's getting the email and what they're going to do with it.
So as opposed to pushing your marketing message onto them, it's got to be relevant to the person receiving the email.
Absolutely. So, it has to have great relevance and have a greater impact because of all the competition with content. And the fact that people are scanning through so much content. And a lot of people, if they don't look at your email that day and it goes below their fold, you could have 4,000 emails below your fold that don't get looked at. And the only thing that's getting looked at is what they happen to see that morning.
Oh, yeah, and it's usually gone after that. Well, with all that being said, I mean, what changes need to be made?
Well, I think that so if you think about your strategy behind your email, you might have a couple strategies. Like, for example, the one you mentioned, which is a content-based strategy specifically to drive traffic, maybe to drive leads or to drive views for advertisers. That would be important. Or if you have an e-commerce website, I think that you want to go beyond the traditional, hey, we're great, come and see us. we've got a great website, come and click on us. There's got to be very specific things there that get that loyal email subscriber interested in clicking through and some sort of action. I think that you should have a call to action in your email subject line. I think you should have a very specific call to action in the email itself. And I think that the call to action needs to be very simple and straightforward. And I think this is probably most important of all, is that whatever you're doing on your email has to be a supplement to what you're doing with your entire content strategy. And in our next podcast, we're going to talk a little bit more about a content strategy. But email is just another way to reach the people that do want to get your emails with your comprehensive content strategy. I think also that you've got to make use of visuals and captions on photos in emails. And I think that the less content and the more simple and direct the approach and the call to action, the better results you're going to see from your emails. I mean, I think that the days of, emails of like 20 product items, going out, everything's on sale, it's going to be tough to compete with emails like that.
Well, what's an ideal length for an email, for email marketing?
Well, once again, it depends on the subscriber and what the subscriber needs are, but our rule of thumb is the shorter the better. Because, once again, it's information overload. So if you have a short, brief, and concise email with a call to action in it, going out to a targeted list, you're going to see better results. And that's for most, like, for example, e-commerce websites or even some service-based companies that are distributing content. That's a good approach, too, because you can send them back to your website, back to your blog, or even to social media. Now, if your strategy, though, is a more extensive and content-based strategy, then we come back to what you were talking about earlier, and like the shop.org of the world type email blast, where you have a very long list of little snippets of content with very brief headers, and you can scan that and get great information and click through to what you want to see.
And, of course, most of that content is sponsored as well.
Yeah, that's how they're driving some revenue.
That's how they're going to get the revenues, is from that. But what I'm thinking, though, too, also with email marketing, it used to be, here's the long post. We want to give you great content in that post.
Yes.
However, what I find now is, what's the big thing? Empty inbox. Have 0 emails in your inbox. You want to delete as much as you can.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be smart for the email marketer to make sure that they drive it to the website so they can bookmark it when they want to go back to it?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that this whole idea of segmentation. See, so with other types of content, you have less control over segmentation. So if you've got a social media website and you're posting content there, that's great, but you're not going to control who comes in and reads it and who likes it or whatever. You're not going to segment the likes, right? But with email marketing, you can still segment your lists. And I think that the biggest point I can make about segmentation is that loyal customers come first. You need to know who your loyal customers are. They're the ones that are waiting for your email, and they're going to take action on it. They may not always buy. They might refer someone. They may bookmark that email or go back to the website and come back later to buy. But those are the folks that you definitely want to target with your email list. And I also would email is also one of the few content areas where you can do campaign-based work. So you can do measurable campaign-based work to a segmented list, and you can do A/B testing. Now, the one thing to be careful of is don't overdo segmentation, because once you get out of that loyal target of customers, then email marketing really loses its effectiveness. So you can spend more time trying to segment your list than it's worth in the returns you're going to get. And I do read a lot of stuff on the web about the importance of segmentation, the importance of targeting certain people, but I think that that's all trumped by how loyal is that customer. You know what I'm saying? Because you could go back and target people that bought product A from you, right? And you say, well, they bought product A, they're gonna buy product B now. But if their loyalty level is just a fraction of what it should be, it's not going to be worth your time. You're not going to get the conversions. So that kind of stuff is real important in email marketing. I think that will always have a place.
Well, and also that comes back to your content marketing strategy as well. And it goes back to the overall. So when you're looking at segmentation, somebody might be interested in a specific type of content. And
yes.
That might be something when they sign up for the email list, that they opt in to what they're looking for specifically. I mean, is that something that you have found in your research, that allowing people to opt into certain types of lists and let the person choose, let the reader choose what they want to receive and let them segment it instead of doing it on the back end let the person choose. This is the list I want to be on.
It's a very good point, and it depends on what you're doing. Now, I've gone to email.
And this is probably. I mean, I'll say it with a caveat. As I'm thinking more of a service-based business, not e-commerce.
Yeah, so just be careful that you don't overdo it, because I know that I've subscribed to emails, and you probably too have, Glenn, where you're like, you fill out all these boxes. I want to get information just on these things. Well, a couple weeks later, you've forgotten what you selected, what you didn't. You don't know what you're missing. It could just be you're getting everything that they have anyway. It's just kind of a
right, or they don't have it segmented on their end, and it's a general list, and they just send everything out.
Send everything. So segmentation needs to be really black and white. Okay, so I wouldn't want to see, if I sign up for a web marketing newsletter, I don't want to see send me information on SEO, social media, email marketing, but don't send me information on design. Or don't send me information on e-commerce, but do send me information on conversion rate analysis. I mean, okay, so that's too much brain energy. Just send me everything. If it's web marketing, send me web marketing. Now, if you're on a website like Amazon, and you want to be updated on the new and best-selling Kindle books, then that's fine. Check that off. But maybe you don't want to know about the newest lawnmower that's being sold on Amazon or whatever. That's a little bit different.
Or even split up, even go a step further. You want to know what's new on the Kindle, what new books are being released. Well, you want to know what types of book, because you may be just interested in nonfiction and biographies. And you could care less about fiction or romance novels.
Or have your favorite author.
And so you want to be able to say, okay, I want to know what's new in biographies. That's all I want to know.
That's right. And even take it one step further and say, by author, if you because people are very loyal to authors. I know I am. Once I read a book from an author and I think that was a good book, had an impact on me, I'll look at other stuff that person's written. So that's an example of building a loyal customer base for Amazon. If you bought from this author or you bought music from this artist, you should definitely be getting notices, and they do a good job of that.
And they do a great job. I mean, Amazon's a great model too for recommendations for e-commerce as well.
Definitely.
Once again, another podcast.
Yes.
So, what does the future look like for email marketing? I mean, obviously, most people don't want to receive email correspondence or just blanket emails that go out. So what's the future of it? Is it less? Is it more? Is it niche targeting?
Here we go. I mean, the future of marketing in itself is that it is becoming more and more segmented. And so we know there are people that are email people, and we know there are people that are texters, and we know there are people that are social media people. And so you've got to have your folks, your customers, and your target market segmented by what their preferences are. So there will always be email people. And that's what you want to segment out. And the rule of thumb, as always, is that great content gets read and distributed. So ask yourself this question before you send an email, and this is more important than ever. Is this important enough to be read? Will my target market want to read this? And I think that to get that great content out there, then it has to be coordinated with other efforts. So if you do an email distribution, and let's say 25% of your loyal customer base is going to read the email, let's make sure the other 25% that's on Facebook sees a posting with that same great content, and coordinate all those efforts and track them.
And people on your RSS feeds as well. On
your blog, on your RSS feed, and people that maybe even want to get text. I think texting is going to actually start to get more and more popular. And I really see the future of digital communications moving toward a texting environment. I know, and the reason I say that is because folks that are under 30, folks that are under 25 years old, texting is like breathing. I don't know how to explain. I mean, texting to them is like talking is to us, or like picking up the phone and calling someone. In fact, it's more than that. It's more than picking up the phone and calling someone. So what's happening with texting, and how is texting? I really hope that we don't get into this texting overload, because it's going to make life really difficult for people. I mean, if you're trying to text a friend of yours that you'll meet them for lunch at a certain time, and then you've got to wade through 15 other text messages to get to that one, I mean, that's going to be a challenge. But I do think that email overall, in the future of email, is that it will become less popular. I don't think that the popularity of email is going to stay there. And I think that we're going to see an evolution of different forms of content distribution through technology and email is not going to stay at the top as it has been. So a comprehensive strategy for this and staying on top of the changes is more important than ever.
Now, do you have any other suggestions, before we get to the key action items, do you have any other suggestions on how to keep your opt-ins or to generate additional opt-in rates or increase your opt-in rates?
I think that with email marketing, there's some things you can control and some things you can't control. And I know this is kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, but focus on what you can control. And I think that you have to step up to the plate and do the best job you can with your strategy and your content and your marketing and all that. And some people are still going to bail. They're going to unsubscribe. Or a lot of people are just not going to get that message. But if you do your best job and stay true to your strategy and your focus, then you should see good things happening. Now, the one thing that there's two things actually you can do that can help. And number one is talk to your customers and prospects occasionally and find out what they want to, don't ask their opinions of something you've done, but ask them what they would want to see and what would motivate them toward action. And then number two, of course, with email marketing, everything's trackable. Right. So in Google Analytics, watch your results of your email marketing. In your email program, whatever email program you use to distribute your emails, you should have great data there. And so watch that stuff, watch the information, and provide and do great content. And I think that there'll be a place for email marketing, but it's going to be dwindling.
So what are the key action items for the listeners, Tom?
Well, I've got a tough one for people today. And if you're out there and you do this, I'd love to hear how you pulled it together, because I think it's an important thing. But if you can somehow segment your customer base by the different ways that they access your content, that would be a good start to figure out where email fits in. So look at your web-based content sources and try to segment it by your target market. An example of that would be 20% of our target market are email people, 20% are LinkedIn, 25% are going to be on the blog and on blog postings. Another 30%, forget it. We can't reach them this way. We've got to reach them through direct selling. That's a good start to figure out where email fits in. And then, definitely focus on your current database and your most loyal customers first. And then we've mentioned this, I'll mention it again, coordinate your email strategy around a broader content-based strategy. So listen to the next podcast. We're going to talk about that. Then test, research, and watch all the data to make sure that your efforts work.
And test again.
And test again, yes.
Thanks, Tom. Folks, thanks for joining us again, and we look forward to having you tune in to our next podcast.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com. If you have a website you would like us to review or an issue you would like to see covered in future podcasts, email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com.